Hey guys, it's Paradise, and imagine if you could turn into a dragon in Elden Ring. Well, lucky for us, there's a newly added quest and a second secret method to get two different items that allow you to change into two different dragon forms in the shadow of the Erdtree DLC. The Rock Heart and the Priestess Heart are equipable items that not only change your appearance into an awesome dragon form, but also boost some of the dragon incantations, which are some of the best looking and more powerful incantations in the game. The Priestess's Heart is obtainable by completing a quest, but there is a second hidden way to get a heart that doesn't require you to fight the boss Bayle, so we're going to include that for those of you that want a quicker and easier way to have one of these dragon forms for yourself. But we'll also have a full guide to Igon's quest to get the Priestess's Heart, and a bunch of useful tips for different things that we've learnt along the way to hopefully help you, and of course we'll showcase some of the items that you can get, because there are a lot of awesome items from this questline. So let's jump right into it and not waste any time. We're going to start this quest by visiting the Pillar Path waypoint, which is pretty easy to get to even from the start of the DLC. A very common grace point that you may already have is the Castle Front Site of Grace, which is accessed after heading over the bridge at the start of the DLC. The Pillar Path waypoint is located just south of here. Once you get to this Site of Grace, you will hear an NPC screaming in pain. Go and talk to him and he will speak about the pain he's in and mention Bayle, which is a big bad dragon we need to fight. Exhaust all of his talking options until there's no more dialogue and he starts to repeat himself. From here we will then need to go into a nearby dungeon that would allow us to access a new dragon area that's locked off to the rest of the map. So head south by following this route and the statues. So from the Site of Grace, what you want to do is hop onto your mount and again follow the dragon statues down this path where we're going. You will be forced off of your mount, as you can see, and this is because you're being invaded by the ancient dragon man. To be honest, he's not too hard, and if you have some powerful attack or cheese or unique attack, he dies very quickly. As you could see, the magma blade is incredibly powerful for this, so I highly recommend you farming that out. It's a rare drop if you are struggling. Follow these statues around until you get into this cave though, and then it's time to head deeper inside. This is the Dragon's Pit. There of course is a Site of Grace, and you always want to unlock these so you have a safe route. Inside the Dragon Pit, what you want to do is follow the path where we're going. It is fairly linear, although at some points there is some alternative turns. Of course, run this way and pick up the rune, and then start heading your way down. You can just run past all the mobs like we are. They do chonk if they hit you, so keep running or clear it out. Here is where you have the option of going up the stairs to an optional dragon that you can defeat, which will give you an ancient smithing stone, as well as a dragon heart. But again, this is an optional wyvern. You don't have to completely defeat it and kill it if you don't want to. You can go the other way to continue on with the quest, but getting dragon hearts is kind of decent anyway, so if you want to farm them, you can, and of course, an extra smithing stone there if you want it. If you don't want to do the optional dragon fight, head down these stairs instead, and you'll get into this big room, which doesn't have anything in it except for this ominous big drop before a sort of altar. Don't be afraid though, you can actually survive this if you jump down, and it does take a while of falling. It is a little scary, but you will survive the fall. And here you have the boss room. This boss is now required to unlock the next area, which is sealed off from the rest of the map. This is the ancient dragon man in his full form. He will actually be a bit more difficult this time. Make sure to summon your mimic and then go ham with your strongest attacks and powers. As you can see, he hits really hard, so make sure you got those potions ready. But he's not super tanky. It might take a couple tries depending on how strong your build is or how many fragments of the Skadu tree you have, but you will get the Dragon Hunter Great Katana, which is actually a really good Great Katana if you don't have it already, so it's a nice reward. When you run to the back of the room, make sure to open this door. Do not return to the beginning of the cave. Instead, go through, open the door, and you unlock another Site of Grace. After this, you will arrive at the Dragon Pit Terminus Site of Grace, and from here you have the option of going to the Altar of the Grand Dragon Communion, where you're able to meet the Dragon Priestess for a buff, and although this isn't required, the buff is a consumable item that boosts your damage negation, which of course will be very helpful in the fights ahead. The Dragon Priestess line has two outcomes that you can get. We're going to show you the one where you get the heart and her weapons first. However, there is another way to do this that we'll put at the end of the video that will show you how to get her as a Spirit Ash summon, as well as a new buff incantation. so skip to that if you're interested in those items, otherwise we'll show you how to get her weapon and heart. So to get to here, you will need to follow this route. So from the Site of Grace, head forwards through the tunnel, and when you get outside, hop on and call your mount to speed this whole process up. What you basically want to do is jump your way down this sort of cliff to where all the dead drakes are, and you'll see a sleeping drake, but don't attack it, just run past. It will stay snoozing, so you don't have to worry about him for now. But by all means, actually kill him if you want to. It's just faster to ignore him while you're doing the sort of quest run. Go through this area with our favorite golden goats and the ginormous golden goats. I don't know why there's big goats, but I do kind of love them. And head down here until you see the ginormous dead dragon, which just looks so cool and very, very creepy. It'd be pretty cool if you could actually go into its mouth. Definitely use the Site of Grace so you can fast travel back here, because this is where the new sort of altar to commune with the dragons is, as well as the dragon lady, the priestess that we're talking to here. By talking with her, she'll have a bunch of dialogue, which is pretty cool if you're interested in it, but then you will have an option, and if you do actually pick Devour Draconic Essence, you will get the consumable item, which is really good for some of these boss fights ahead. It's not needed. If you want to hard mode it, you don't have to do this. It's worth unlocking the grace point anyway, but if you want to make the fights even easier and therefore get these items even faster, then you will want this Dragon's Blessing. So you can see in the inventory, the Ancient Dragon's Blessing, use FP to increase all damage negation. The next thing you need to do is head up the mountain by following this route. So from the Site of Grace, head outside, and once you get outside, you can actually mount up, which will make this whole journey quicker and easier because it's easy to evade the enemies along the way. As you come down this hill, you'll see a bunch of dead dragons everywhere, which I think is really cool, and a sleeping drake, but do not attack him. He will stay sleeping, so we can just easily run past. Take this left route up and follow around where we go, down and through this sort of mountainous area. There's no enemies along the way or anything scary, but you just want to make sure you don't fall off. It shouldn't be too hard, so just keep running on your mount. To be honest, this area is actually really cool looking. I don't know why they've sealed it off from the rest of the map, but it's pretty cool once you have it. Jump up this boost path, and then you'll get to the top with a bridge. Run along the bridge and you'll see a grace point ahead, which will be a nice checkpoint, and we can fast travel back here at any time now. Once you get to the foot of the Jagged Peaks Site of Grace, you will then need to take on the two drakes that are fighting each other on the path. You can easily cheese this by just waiting out one of them to defeat the other, and it doesn't even take too long. After this, just use hit and run tactics with your horse at the ready, because you can easily dodge most of the flame attacks by jumping on your horse and running out of danger. Once these dragons are defeated, you will then receive a dragon heart and dragon scale flesh, along with some dialogue options from Igon. Go over to where he is lying on the floor and initiate all of the dialogue options from him until they are exhausted. He will then give you his finger, which will allow you to summon him in the fight against Bayle. And next, we aren't too far from the big fight, so make your way to the Jagged Peak Mountain Site of Grace by following this route. So head through this area and jump up on this wind spot. It will boost you really high into the sky to a second wind spot that we're also going to jump up. After you land here, follow our route very carefully. There will be a boss ahead, but do note it's an optional boss. We can skip it by just running past. As you can see, we're going to run through. We're going into a sort of mountain cave area. There's rocks falling down, so wait for them and dodge them. They're pretty easy to dodge while mounted. But now we're coming up on that boss that I was talking about, the big dragon. It's an ancient dragon, one of the coolest ones from the base game. I'm really glad they brought one back here. But for now, we don't actually need to fight it. So run past, go behind him, and you see this really steep hill. This is what we want to run up. To be honest, you shouldn't get hit by any moves, a couple lightning maybe thrown at you or something like that, but it's really not that hard to run through. It seems scary, but it's pretty easy to just ignore him. But do remember his location, because you can come back and fight him later, but here you have a Site of Grace, which will be our next checkpoint. Once you get to this point, you then have the option to get the heart that doesn't require the boss fight against Bayle, as all you will need to do is grab a picture, which you can get from the Shadowkeep, and then go to a specific location. So let's show you how to get that. From the Shadowkeep's main gate, Plaza Site of Grace, follow this route, which doesn't require too long to pick up the picture. There's a shortcut to the east if you have that open, but if not, here is the full route around. So from the Shadow Keep, turn left and head through these doors. We're going to bypass all of the enemies, so keep running. You'll see there's a bunch of soldiers around, one that will do a stomp and try and jump scare you, but keep running through all the way up into this sort of grand feast hall room and through this door at the back. Now here there will be some enemies that will jump at you from behind these boats, but if you keep running you should be okay. Keep going all the way down, and on the left just ahead you will see a ladder, and this is a ladder that we want to go down. Remember, if you hold circle while going down the ladder you can slide down it, which is way quicker. Go behind this waterfall where there's a second ladder, but don't drop down. Make sure you use the ladder because it's really far down. You'll die if you fall. Down here, go through the doorway where you will find the painting that we need for the quest, so go up to it and pick it up. Now that you have the picture, you can follow this route from the Jagged Peak Mountainside to the Rock Heart location. So from the Grace Point, look west on your compass and head up the mountain like I am. You want to go sort of west, southwest past all of these dead dragons and up this big boost point. From here, we're actually pretty close. Start heading southwest once again until you see this sort of little pillar that's sticking out. And what we want to do is actually jump down from this pillar. Now, what I did is go left here, and I sort of explored this left area. You don't want to go this way though, as you can't access that additional jump point. Instead, turn back around and head down the cliff to the north, and very soon you will see just over here a sort of ghost chair. If you hang out at this ghost chair for just a minute or so, an NPC will appear and then disappear, and after he disappears, you'll be able to loot the Rock Heart for yourself. So now you have that item so you can do the dragon form, and if you open your map, you can see the exact location here. If instead you want to go to Bayle, from the Grace Point, we're going to do a very similar route, but instead we're going to go higher up the mountain. So if you want to, you can go around this corner and grab Igon's cookbook, because why not? Otherwise, head back, and then we're going to start heading southwest, just like we did before for the Rock Heart. However, instead, there's an alternate pathway to go that would allow us to go higher up to the actual boss area. So, jump up this boost pad, and as you can see, I turn left here, and I'm trying to parkour a bit, but what you actually want to do is head southwest. But instead of jumping down as before, we're going to stay on this raised area and hug the sort of mountain as we go south, jump over the gap until we finally reach the next boost pad. On this boost pad, there's a bunch of dead drakes, which again is really cool, and dodge the lightning along the way. But by following this path, you will actually see that there's an entrance that we can go in, and an ancient dragon smithing stone, which of course you want to pick up. So loop around through this entrance to the final boost pad, where we will get a Sight of Grace and the Bayle Dragon Arena. Once you are here, there is a massive arena and Bayle will be inside. Personally, we didn't find this fight to be too difficult, especially compared to some of the faster bosses like Mesmer, but we can see this being tough because it does have two phases, and the second phase does go kinda crazy, so make sure you're prepared. There will be a mix of lightning and fire attacks with a lot of AoEs, meaning it's very easy to get hit by the spread. Items that reduce lightning and fire damage will also be very helpful for this. To complete the quest for Igon, you will need to summon him by interacting with the glowing message on the floor inside of the actual boss fight arena. This will also be very helpful because he can tank some of the damage for you, along with whatever other summons you bring. Do watch out though, some of Bayle's moves are crazy, but luckily you should be able to dodge roll through the majority of them by using the iframe window. Try to capitalize on damaging him after he does his slams, and keep an eye on your stamina as you will need to disengage and run away when he does a breath attack, which sometimes happens. In the second phase, this is where you need to start taking your time, especially if you're struggling. Wait for him to aggro Igon before committing to any big moves, and that should really help you. We were able to use the Magma Blade to very quickly poise break him, giving us some massive damage windows, and focus on his head, which will increase the damage you deal. After you have taken him down, you'll get the Heart of Bayle, and this is an item similar to a Remembrance, but instead you use it at the Dragon Communion altar to get Bayle's Flame Lightning or Bayle's Tyranny. If you're like us and you didn't talk with the Priestess before taking on Bayle, then when you return to the altar, the Priestess will have disappeared and there'll be items on the floor to pick up, including the Dragon Form Priestess's Heart and the Flower Stone Gavel Weapon, but if you did talk to her, then you should just be able to get them from her instead. The actual quest isn't quite over yet, as we still need to visit Igon. Go back to where we fought the double drakes in the mountain by fast traveling to the foot of the Jagged Peak Sight of Grace, and then go back to where Igon was when he gave us his finger. When you go back, he will be dead, and you'll be able to receive his bell bearing to purchase extra items. On top of this, you'll get his armor set and his Greatbow. So there you have it, you've not only defeated one of the hard bosses in the game, but you're also able to turn into 2 different dragon forms. So let's go through the items we've grabbed and what they do. Both of the hearts will transform you into a dragon form, but they require you to have no armor on, so unequip all of your armor before using it. While the dragon form itself doesn't allow you to wear armor, it does boost your resistances by around 50 each, so if you want to do a fight with the light dodge roll, this could be something of use to you. The hearts have different features as well. The Priestess heart turns you into the Priestess dragon form and will boost dragon cult incantations. Meanwhile, the Rock Heart will make you look more like a male dragon and boosts Dragon Communion incantations. But don't forget, you can trade the Heart of Bayle for some powerful spells like Bayle's Flame Lightning and Bayle's Tyranny at the Dragon Altar. Both of these summon a massive dragon's head that does a huge attack, and they are pretty awesome looking. On top of this, you have Igon's armor and his Greatbow and his bell bearing. His bow is a strength and dex scaling bow with a unique skill called Igon's Drake Hunt. And the Flowerstone Gavel is a strength dex arcane scaling weapon which calls down red lightning to a location, and to be honest, I love all of the red lightning related spells and weapons. As we mentioned before, there's another way to complete the Dragon Priestess questline, and it seems to end with you getting something completely different. A powerful new spell called Dragon Bolt of Florisax, and the Ancient Dragon Florisax as a Spirit Ash summon, which is pretty awesome. So far, it seems like you can't get all of the items like the heart, the weapon, the spell, and the ash all together, so that might require multiple runs through the DLC. But to get these rewards, you will need to talk to Thoilier at the Pillar Path Cross Grace site, exhaust all of his dialogue options, and then fast travel to Bellarat at the Tower Settlement. Here you can talk to Moore, and if you do these dialogue options, he will give you a syrup item that you then take back to Thoilier. After going back to him and finishing all of his dialogue, he will then give you this concoction. Next, we need to travel to the Dragon Altar and put the Priestess to sleep at nighttime, but before doing this, make sure you've progressed the Igon Questline until you beat the double dragons and he gives you his finger. If you've done this, fast travel to the Altar Site of Grace and pass time until night. Then give her the concoction and pass time again and wait 2 whole days, and then speak with her after she wakes back up. Exhaust all of the dialogue options with her, and then it's time to go and kill Bayle, but make sure to summon Igon in the fight too. After you've defeated him, go back to the altar and talk with the Dragon Priestess and confess that it was you that put her to sleep, and keep exhausting the dialogue options until she gives you the Dragon Bolt of Florisax and herself as a summon, the Ancient Dragon Florisax. The Dragon Bolt of Florisax incantation seems pretty interesting as it gives you a damage negation buff around 10% and it lasts for around a minute. This is very similar with the Golden Vow incantation, but they do not stack together unfortunately. It's good to note it also gives additional damage negation when guarding. Then you have the Ancient Dragon Florisax Spirit Ash summon, where she's able to cast a variety of spells including the Dragon Bolt buff, as well as the Flowerstone Gavel weapon to cast lightning, and other dragon attacks. So there you have it, a bunch of different item rewards and 2 different ways to finish this questline. Drop a like down below and comment if we've helped you out, and make sure you're subscribed because we have plenty more Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree good stuff coming your way soon.